Right, hello there. We're here today to discuss Gastronomy Summit 2022. This is going to be an international conference. It's being held at Ulster University in Belfast on the university's new city centre campus, and it's taking place from April the 11th to the 13th, 2022. Now, we're bringing keynotes and hopefully delegates from many different locations around the world, and together they're going to be exploring the development of food and drink destinations in ways that benefit local communities. And there's going to be a particular focus at this event on locations where food, drink, hospitality, and tourism are playing a key role in positive societal transformation. Now, I am Donald Sloan. I'm chair of the Oxford Cultural Collective, which is one of the partner organisations in Gastronomy Summit 2022. And I'm joined by two key players in this event. Michelle Sherlow is the Chief Executive of Food NI. That is the body that's responsible for promoting Northern Ireland internationally as a food and drink destination. I'm also joined by Anna Pollock. Anna is a leading tourism strategist, and she is a passionate advocate for new forms of tourism which generate well-being and which benefit people and places. And we'll hear a bit more about that in a moment. But the purpose of this discussion is really just to give you a taster of some of the big issues that we're going to be talking about at this event in April next year. So welcome both. Great to see you as always. Michelle, I'll start with you if I may. A few years ago, it might have seemed odd that an international gathering focusing on gastronomy and hospitality would find a natural home in Northern Ireland. But a lot has changed in Northern Ireland in recent years, and it's fast gaining a reputation as one of the world's leading food and drink destinations. Can you tell us a bit about the process of change that has gone on, and how would you describe the food and drink scene in Northern Ireland these days?
Thanks, Don. Yeah, well, it's a very exciting food scene now. Go back 10 years and we didn't have as many Michelin star chefs. We didn't have as many world-class producers. But really, since there's been political stability, we've had an opportunity to allow all the talent that was, there but hiding, come into its own. And there's been an absolute groundswell in really exciting local producers. Not just food, but also drinks. This has been taken up by chefs. And in 2016, we had our first ever year of food and drink. Fantastic initiative, went across the whole year, involved thousands of people, and actually ended up with Northern Ireland winning World's Best Food Destination at International Travel and Tourism in 2018.
Now, I mean, you're describing what is quite a dramatic transformation in the food and drink scene in Northern Ireland. To what extent has this happened through sort of conscious development of a strategy and through the sense of community that has been developed amongst food and drink producers and hospitality professionals?
Well, I suppose a bit of both. We started out very much focusing on the areas where we were traditionally strong. Northern Ireland's very unique. We have something like 26,000 farmers, most of them on very small and not industrialized farms. So we started out doing a lot of work around grass-fed beef, and we had people like Peter Hannon at the forefront of that, winning the Supreme Champion at the Great Taste Awards. And a lot of other fantastic things started to happen. Ciders produced on farm from apples grown there. People looking to get recognition for traditional products like our early potato from Comber, Loughney eels, and a whole community grew up around food events. Now, clearly in the last year, we haven't been able to have those, but now in Northern Ireland, we would have a really healthy calendar of food-focused events that celebrate local food that takes place right across the whole year, from up in Legendary, where they celebrate fish, as I said, right down to Comber, where it's all about the first ever Comber early potato coming onto plates. So a great community and a very supportive community as well.
And presumably that's something that generates a lot of community pride.
It does. It generates a lot of civic pride. And, you know, that's the thing about Northern Irish people tend to be understated and they don't blow their own trumpet. But when you look at things like Blas na Éireann Awards, Great Taste Awards, you will see so much of that produce comes from Northern Ireland. We had an oyster producer win All Ireland Supreme Champion last year at Blas na Éireann. Mill Bay oysters. But that's just one example of a raft of really, really fabulous products and produce.
Now, you talked there about the calendar of events and opportunities for Northern Ireland to promote itself internationally and blow its own trumpet. What opportunities do you think Gastronomy Summit in 2022 offers to the food and drink community in Northern Ireland? Is it about sharing the Northern Ireland story, presumably also about learning from those who are joining us from different locations internationally?
I think there'd be a real sense of pride among the Northern Irish chefs and producers, and they really want to tell their story, but equally they'd be so keen to hear what's happening in other parts of the world. We know there's a lot we've got to learn on sustainability. There's a big drive coming towards focus on health post the pandemic. And I'm really hoping it will be a melting pot of sharing ideas, learning from one another, and hopefully going away with that extra bit of energy you get from, you know, being with other people with similar values, whom you can learn from. Perfect.
Anna, if I can turn to you, a recurring theme in what Michelle was talking about was this sense of community. Now, just from your perspective, why is it important for us to connect the idea of generating the food and drink world alongside regenerating that sense of community? I think you're on mute, Anna.
Apologies. Yeah, to me, they're inseparable. When I think of good, nutritious food, when I think of quality food or interesting food, they're nearly always tied to a specific place where the unique ingredients of that geography and that culture and that history come to play. And that's really what the interest is in all of the gastronomical developments that we've seen over the last few years. People don't want something that is mass produced. They want something that is produced with love. Now, you can't do that without a sense of belonging in a place and a sense of community. So it's a two-way street. You know, when we eat bread together, we create community. And when we work together to create bread, we also create community. So that to me is in very plain language. From a tourism perspective, what we're seeing, and COVID has accelerated this, is a recognition that while it's a global industry, it manifests itself best in the uniqueness of individual places. And people feel most welcome if there is that sense of pride. And people feel that sense of pride when they've had a sense of participation in creating the offering to the visitor or whatever it might be. So, to me, they're utterly connected. The beautiful thing about food is that it's the most essential, common element of hospitality, So in an event like this, what will be fantastic is you'll be bringing people sharing very similar fundamental values about quality and taste and pride and all the rest of it, but each with a different expression. So, farmers and chefs in New Zealand will share that sense of pride, but what they're producing will be very different.
One of the challenges often is learning from what's going on in different parts of the world. What opportunities do you think the summit affords us in bringing that community of practitioners together, learning from each other, and also maybe initiating legacy projects?
Well, I think right now we have to share as much as possible. We can't also always do that electronically. You certainly can't enjoy food digitally either. And I think it's in those less formal, but gatherings where, as we all know, food and drink and hospitality tend to accelerate that process of a desire to exchange and learn. So there'll be the experience itself from a taste point of view, but I think right now the challenge we have is to accelerate the knowledge of what's possible. And the more stories that we can share and the more personal experiences, it's not about coming up with checklists of things to do, or there's no handbook for this, but it's about building confidence. It's about, sparking ideas. And I think after the last 2 years, let's face it, there'll be a huge, and this is no pun intended, hunger for something, an event like this. And I can't think of a better place than Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is a very modern economy, but also, as Michelle was just saying, very dependent on farming, with the challenges that farming is now encountering with its contribution to climate change, but also having 26,000 farmers, all of whom can be hosts in a way, as well as producers of food.
You're just finally, Anna, you're going to be one of the keynote speakers at this event. Are you going to take this as an opportunity to try to promote much needed new thinking in terms of community regeneration?
Well, I'm never one to avoid an opportunity like that. I'm one of those people in tourism, the big picture looks at the big dynamics. Even before COVID, it was becoming very clear that the old model of tourism, what we call the mass industrial model of growth, just numbers and volume of people moving through a place, wasn't working for the hosts because they didn't feel they were participating. There was a sense of it being an extractive type of economy. And there's a huge shift going on as a result, also accelerated by COVID, in recognizing that we as a species have to start to live more in a more healthy way with each other, but as with the natural environment, and find ways of producing and enjoying products and services in a manner that doesn't create too much harm. So my sort of area of specialty is this notion of regenerative thinking, and it's not peculiar to tourism. In fact, one of the major areas where we're seeing the greatest movement is agriculture, where we're recognizing that you can't see land as just a medium that you put in things, whether it's fertilizers or pesticides, it's a living being. And I believe that in regenerative agriculture, now they understand, it's not the farmers that grow the plants, it's the soil. The soil is key. So we must build a healthy soil or work with soil. In tourism, it's a healthy community. There's a community that has a sense of identity and a sense of pride. So I will be using the opportunity to introduce some of these really exciting ideas around regeneration.
Well, I think in that short taster, what we've done is introduce one very key issue that's going to be addressed at the summit, which is the connection between those who are working in food, drink, and hospitality and societal transformation. And that's something that maybe is often overlooked. So big ideas to be addressed at Gastronomy Summit 2022. Thank you both very, very much. There's information about the summit accompanying this short film. Please do seek out more information, and we hope to see you in Belfast in April 2022. Thank you very much indeed.